If you're a true crime buff like myself, you've probably realised by now just how often criminals get caught because of a really stupid reason, including having no idea what to do with the body. And while I'm no criminal mastermind myself, I do know a lot about how a body likes to decompose, unlike a lot of criminals it would seem. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy this video. We post death and dying related videos every Friday. Now let's talk why criminals fail at body disposal. Now, it shouldn't need to be said, but this is not advice for criminals, nor do I agree to or intend for the information in this video to be used for criminal purposes. The information in this video is strictly for entertainment and general education purposes only. We good, YouTube? Okay, let's investigate. We'll just burn the body, Fred. Burning the body seems to be the go-to answer for anyone asked, how would you get rid of a body on the internet? And yeah, I googled that. Now, I thought everyone knew that wouldn't work as a method of quick disposal, and then I remembered critical thinking isn't for everyone. And it would seem many criminals forgot their primary school years where they learnt that bodies are around 75% water, and water plus fire equals not a very efficient fire. But let's start with the less stupid reason they may give this a crack. Removing evidence. Maybe your criminal self is looking for a way to make sure none of your DNA is left on the body. Okay, so it's not the best way to do it, but I suppose that would work. Then you get the criminals who burn the body to prevent identification of the body. Now, I'm not sure what rock they've been living under for the past however many years, but we're no longer in the 1800s and we now have full use of DNA and dental records. And you giving the body a quick once-over with a flamethrower isn't going to get you out of that one. But the majority of these moronic criminals believe burning the body will leave no trace of it. Pour some fuel on it and voila, body disappears. That amount of stupidity just makes my brain hurt. Okay, let's run this one down. A retort at a crematorium heats up to between 800 and 1000 degrees Celsius and burns at that temperature continuously for 2 hours, give or take. For comparison, your average oven at home reaches around 260 degrees. Now, maybe these people were thinking about the funeral pyres like on the River Ganges when they thought this would be a great idea. But again, some research would have prepared them. I'm reminded of the old adage, prior preparation prevents piss poor performance. But apparently they weren't taught that either. So it's a good time to know that funeral pyres don't burn as hot as a retort, but they still produce far more heat than an oven, and they burn for around 6 hours, being kept alight and watched over continuously. No just setting it alight and wandering off. The other kink in your plan is that it takes 500 to 600 kilos of wood to burn one body completely. And where are you going to get that, genius? But if they did happen to get it right either way, there would still be the bones to deal with. Ashes aren't ashes after all, they're pulverized bone fragments. But at least no DNA, I guess. Just throw the body overboard, Frank. Another true crime classic. Heave the body onto a boat in the dead of night, head on out, throw it overboard, body sinks, job done, time for a beer. Until that sucker resurfaces and decides to say hello. Now, we all know that governments have some pretty ridiculous laws sometimes, but when it comes to legal sea burial, there are reasons for that. It's very difficult. There have been several published cases over the years of legal sea burial not working out, but possibly the most well-known one is that of Scott Lasky, whose body was given a proper sea burial off the coast of Florida in the USA, only for him to resurface one day later and be found by some poor boat captain. Police showed up, thought he was a murder victim, and it wasn't until 4 days later that the whole saga was worked out. So even if you do it right, it can go wrong. But why? Well, while the body will initially sink and you celebrate a job well done, as the body decomposes, it fills with gas, and this gas makes them float. Now, many criminals have watched old mafia movies and rightly assume that those concrete shoes must be used for a reason, right? So they tie something heavy to the body. But decomposition and the fact that these gases make the body a lot more buoyant than you would think only leads to the body resurfacing minus an arm or a leg, and I'm pretty sure you can't call that successful. Now, I suppose you could dump the body in a very cold lake somewhere. Cold equals much slower decomp and therefore less risk of the body resurfacing. But you live in Australia, mate, so good luck with that. Ooh, but Australia, you say. Australia has a ridiculous amount of sharks around it. Yeah, I suppose you could dump the body overboard and put out your best shark call to Bruce. But sharks don't tend to eat entire humans, especially if it decides that whoever you murdered tastes like Brussels sprouts. There are also migration issues and tidal issues. Oh, and the salt water, which also helps the buoyancy. So good luck with that. Okay, fine, we'll bury it, Bob. Probably the most obvious way to go, though not necessarily the easiest. You know those memes that go around that say you had one job to do with a picture of the most obvious screw up or laziness? I'm pretty sure there's some cops out there that think the same thing. How many times have we heard of a body just being left on the side of the road, or being uncovered by hikers because it was only covered by a couple of leaves and left right on the side of the hiking track, or an excited dog bringing an arm bone back to its owner? Sometimes you just gotta wonder why they even bothered at all. If your life or even just your freedom is on the line because you murdered someone, surely you would have the motivation to put in some effort into getting rid of the evidence, right? Now again, we haven't done this video to give tips to criminals, but if you do want a tip, here's one for free. Don't kill people. Simples. But we made it to point out just how little the general public knows about dead bodies and decomposition. And it is this lack of knowledge that often breeds fear and confusion and leads to some poor decision making when dealing with a loved one's body at the wake or funeral. On the plus side, that lack of knowledge does make things easier for the police. And with that, go talk death.